Grease Bay outside Gotham City, where the elite flee the heat.
Well, I sure hope Aunt Harriet gets better. I wish she could be here with us for this Gotham City flower show and exhibit. Wow, what's that stench? Is it Pepe Le Pew? Is it a garbage disposal? It smells like lilac. Holy botany exhibit. It's Louie the Lilac and he's back. Oh no, let's call Batman and Robin and Batgirl to stop him and save the day.
It's the third season, folks. Just like the old Batman TV series, we could do whatever we want, right? Right? Lilacs. Lilac. Lilac. Louie the Lilac. Lilacs. Lilac. Lilacs.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're taking a second look at Milton Berle's portrayal of Louie the Lilac. Now, I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit here and reveal some behind-the-scenes type stuff when it comes to producing the podcast. As I'm recording this episode of Louie's Lethal Lilac Time, I haven't as yet recorded the episode for Louie the Lilac. My guest host for that episode, Jay Smith, and I, between the two of us, have had a number of scheduling conflicts, and I really want Jay on this episode. It's kind of like when I was doing the Green Hornet episode and it got delayed because I really wanted my guest on that one. Jay is a huge Milton Berle fan, and so I wanted him to possibly convince me that there is something worthwhile here with Milton Berle, because I've never been a big Berle fan. Now, with all that said, I kind of like this episode. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm saying that. So who knows, maybe it'll be like I get to Jay's episode and it's sort of backdated and maybe I won't like that one as much, but this one isn't too bad. I'm going to get into this. Now, I don't have Jay Smith with us here today for the second one, but I do have a new voice to the podcast here. I'd like to welcome Bat fan Mr. Joseph Culp. Hey Joseph, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, John. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you on the podcast.
So let me ask you, Joseph, you're a fan of Batman. Are you what I consider, myself included, a first-generation syndication baby, or did you watch the show when it originally aired?
Well, I remember seeing it on telly back in Scotland when I was growing up. The original ones, I must have been, well, I was born in 1964, so I was just like 2 or 3 years old, but I remember my auntie, she used to watch it with me and stuff, and then she said that was one of my favorite shows.
Really? Now, what, in terms of like over time, what is it about the show that appeals to you?
Well, I just grew up being a big comic book fan, and I just love that, they show the classic villains and some new ones and stuff that weren't in the comics, and it's just like fun to watch, and I always get a kick out of the bat fights and things like that, so it's just like nostalgic, but it's still fun to watch today.
And you're able to make the distinction. I always bring this up because you say you're a comic book fan and such, and I know we talked about before the show, you have a pretty extensive collection there. You're cool, though, with the different variations of Batman, whether it's Adam West, Bright Knight, or the current Dark Knight.
Yes, I enjoy all the ones. The only one I'm just a wee bit skeptical about is the new Batman movie coming out, because I don't remember ever seeing in the comic book Batman with the 5 o'clock shadow.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Well, I guess he's the older, tired one. He doesn't have time to go and get a shave. Although you got to wonder then if more people don't start, summing up and going, hey, Batman's got a 5 o'clock shadow, so does Bruce Wayne.
Yes, I agree there.
Well, let's get into talking about this episode. Like I said, it's called Louie's Lethal Lilac Time. It aired January 11th, 1968. And we open up, and I tell you, I love the teaser. I love the teaser because we're at Ambergris Bay. Nice little touch there, because we're going to be dealing with ambergris in a moment. And we see Bruce's beach house. And it's a fairly decent looking set, I thought.
Oh, yes, I thought it was really neat how they did the set. Yes, I agree with you there.
Because the thing is like, for this season, we had to cut back. We lost the living room set. We're going to see the foyer in Wayne Manor. So to actually see some other extension of Bruce Wayne's living space, so to speak, was just a nice touch. And it's also a nice touch because Bruce is throwing a party for Dick and his friends, and he's got Barbara to help him be a chaperone. So, of course, she's there for when, the trouble starts. So, Dick shows up. He's found the ambergris. And what I thought was funny is, once again, Dick can't simply call it whale vomit.
You know what this is, Dick? It's ambergris.
You mean the stuff given forth by whales from which they make perfume?
Mm-hmm. Ambergris has a strange fixative quality which allows perfumes to retain their scent. A lump this size should be worth a fortune on the perfume market.
And that's when Louie shows up. And right off the bat, like I said, I've never been a big Milton Berle fan because Milton Berle is always larger than life. He's always, barking and, he dominates. And the thing is, for whatever reason, he's downplaying it. He's not getting upset. He's not getting all worked up. And it actually comes across as more menacing to me than the first time around. I really liked this. And it's also odd because this teaser ends with, kind of a dull note. The last couple of episodes have been doing this. It's not built up to anything exciting that when you get the bat sting whirl and then the credits go, it's just Alfred on the phone, and it's a one-sided conversation. We don't even get Gordon talking to him. He's just responding to whatever Gordon's saying and such. And, he's like, oh, this is terrible and such. And it just goes right to the credits. It was a great start to the teaser, but the ending kind of limps along. And that was the way it was also with the Catwoman Joker one, and from what I suspect is going to be a couple of ones to come. So the two have been brought to Louie's place. And you know what I also liked about this episode? More Adam West and Burt Ward. I always think that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's nice to see them both that way. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, because, there's so much behind the mask all the time, and now you've got, you got them. Mind you, they're tied on the floor the whole time. And we're introduced to Lotus, the woman who's going to make the perfume. Now, at first I thought she was the same woman who had been in the Joker episode way back in the first season, but I can't find anything online to document that. In fact, I don't even think IMDb credits the actress from that Joker episode with the Maharaja of Nipponese.
Yeah, I did. So I looked up about a couple of the people for the episode, and Nobu McCartney, that was Lotus, and then I watched it on one of the Encore channels. She was Yuki in the Karate Kid 2, and it also said that she studied ballet, sort of like the great Julie Newmar did. And then other people that they said some stuff that I found out online was the writer Charles Huffman wrote the screenplay of my favorite Cary Grant film. It was also my grand's favorite Cary Grant film, Night and Day, where Cary Grant plays Cole Porter. And then the other item I saw was Percy Hilton, who was Gus, was Homer Cratchit on the Beverly Hillbillies, and I'm a big Beverly Hillbillies fan. And then the other one was John Dennis. Saffron was a cop in Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
But you didn't see anything to the effect that she had appeared on Batman before.
No, it didn't look familiar to me, no sir.
Wow. Well, she needs parts from various animals in order to. I don't know if this is all true or what. It was kind of strange, the whole thing, because she's naming all these different glands and animal sacs and stuff from muskrats and such. And once again, we see that theme of muskrats, which was actually a couple of times in the second season. Bruce had mentioned how he knew a lot about muskrat hunting or had an affinity towards muskrats and stuff. But apparently these glands are what help to keep the scent long lasting on the perfume. Otherwise, the scent fades quickly. And Louie wants Bruce to remove the pouches because Bruce is such an animal expert, which is like the first time we see something like that. Bruce has done fishing, but I don't know if it's ever been mentioned that Bruce was a hunter.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I thought other funny line was when Louie was saying, "Nothing's gonna keep me from conquering the lilac perfume and the soap and the cosmetic market of Gotham City." And so I told my wife, she watched the episode with me. I said, "Well, I guess they didn't have air fresheners back then because I hate the smell of lilac."
You know, it's funny though too. It's like here's another one of these episodes where you've got, all right, Louie's not the Riddler and he's not Penguin. He's not an A-list villain, but you've got a villain who is sort of like going for something low key. He's not trying to take over the world or take over the city. He's trying to take over a portion of some racket, whether it's, you know, Riddler with boxing and Penguin with horse racing, and now you've got Louie the Lilac wanting to corner the market on perfume.
Yeah, and I just wrote down some things or whatever when I was watching the episode, and one of the things I wanted to say is I thought it's interesting that Batman has the Batmobile, Batgirl has the Batcycle, Louie the Lilac has the Flowermobile. And then the second thing I noticed about the episode is none of his gang from the first episode that he was in returned. And I don't know if a lot of the fans out there are into the Batman 66 comic, but he was featured in issue 26, and he's put in that Louie the Lilac is put into catonic state by a kiss from Poison Ivy. And I thought it would have been neat if back then, if they would have, in the Batman TV show back in the 60s, if they would have had Poison Ivy on there, it would have been neat for her to be played by Lucille Ball, who is my favorite comedian ever.
Now, see, that's interesting you say Lucille Ball, because most fans that I, you know, hear ever talking about Poison Ivy on the show always point to Anne Margaret.
Yeah, I think her too, but I just thought, you know, how sometimes they played the parts for comedic flair and stuff. I thought, well, everybody knew who Lucille Ball was back in the 60s, and that would be just a, you know, bizarre but yet funny thing for her to play Poison Ivy.
Right, right. So while bound, Bruce tries to contact Alfred, and he says that his device can receive the signal, but he's having no luck with sending a signal, so he's not sure if Alfred's even picking up anything at all. And then we cut to what has got to be, I would say, not only just the oddest scene in this episode, but one of the oddest scenes in the entire series. Because in Gordon's office, he has a film camera set up, and he and O'Hara, along with Barbara, you know, who's watching this.
What's this, home movies?
We can get no lead whatsoever on the whereabouts of the Cape Crusaders, but we have been able, with some rapid research, to put together some film coverage of their most outstanding exploits.
Maybe we can find out some new crime-fighting techniques from it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim.
My first question is, why? Why even bother with this? I mean, to me, it just seems like padding.
Now, first is where that Western bad man Shame cornered him in a cattle stampede.
Yeah, I think it was probably neat too, for maybe as a good review for previous episodes of people and kids especially, that other, you know, we might not have seen those episodes or don't recall them.
And next is when Robin, the bywonder, was almost eaten alive by a giant clam.
And interesting about the clips that it looks like they came from Comeback Shane.
Oh, and in this one, Mr. Freeze is making him into Frosty Freezes.
The Joker's Hard Time, Green Ice, and the Pharaoh is in a rut.
And here they are chasing King Tut.
You know, all right, something just struck me just now.
That's enough, Jim.
Is it possible, because you say, you know, as a review for the kids and stuff, and I'm like thinking, well, why? Because it's not like back then television repeated television shows unless the shows went into syndication. ABC, in fact, actually, except for the summer stuff, ABC never, you know, repeated usually an episode of their shows, because there were so many of them. There would be stuff done during the summer, like the second season of Batman. They repeated a mix of first and second season episodes. But when third season Batman ended, there were no repeats at all. It went immediately into syndication that fall. What if that scene was just a way to sort of kind of whet the appetite of people that, you know, this is what you got to look forward to if you missed it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like maybe they were preparing for syndication?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm right there with you, agreeing on that. That's a good thought, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, now here's the question. The second question, though, when it comes to this, who shot this footage? I mean, who was there shooting footage of Robin getting about to be eaten by a clam and didn't do anything to save him?
Yeah, that's bizarre, but that's make it part of the charm of the show.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a common thing. I mean, whether it's footage that you wonder who shot it, or for that matter, if you're looking at footage from a security camera and then suddenly it's just the repeat of a footage from the episode, so you get different angles and everything like that. But still, it's like, who shot the footage? So Gordon gets a call from the zoo about the missing animals, and this totally weird episode, or not episode, I should say, this totally weird scene ends with a weird zoom in to Barbara as Gordon is saying how the animals are gone, and she's got this almost like, stunned. It's not even like surprised. It's like dazed look on her face. As the music rises. It's just, the whole scene is just weird. It sticks out like a sore thumb in the whole episode. So at Wayne Manor, Alfred is talking with reporters, and we get what is going to be the last mention of Aunt Harriet apparently on the show. I don't know if that's true yet. I always have been told, you take IMDb with a grain of salt, but its trivia says that this is it. I mean, we're not going to talk of Aunt Harriet again. I know she's not returning, the actress, because she'd been very ill, but there had been other mentions of her in the past in this third season, and this is apparently the last one. So I'm kind of sad about that.
Yeah, I thought she was a really good addition to the show, Madge Blake, and also liked how I was looking about a month or two ago in my comic collection, how they tried to incorporate her in the Batman comic, both in the 66 one and in the older ones back from the 60s.
Right. Yeah. She's a little younger and a little less sort of, scattered in the older 60s versions, in the original when she was first brought in. She seems to be a little bit more together, and they have to be more careful about what they do. They don't, obviously they're not going to get away with the comedic lines that they're going, bird watching or nature in the raw or anything like that. She'd become very suspicious. I liked this scene. Now, see, this at least I will say I like this, although it hurts a little to see this scene because Barbara shows up and, she's talking to Alfred about the whole situation with Bruce and Dick being missing and such. And Alfred gets a phone call. So he goes across to the study and she follows him. And he's not paying attention because the bat phone is right there in view. But what's really sad, did you notice as they cut across the hallway entrance, just to the right, outside if you look outside the study hall door, they've got a huge curtain covering the entrance to the living room. So
yeah, I thought one of the things was neat about how in the episode was two things about Barbara Gordon. Was one, how she almost found about the secret bat cave, and then also I don't know what on part of the episode when the janitor was on there, how he almost found out the secret Batgirl panel on the wall.
Yeah. No, those were nice touches, although to me it just seemed a little odd also that Batgirl didn't figure out when the bat phone started going off, even if Alfred threw the rag over it, so what? That she didn't think to herself, wow, that sounds just like the bat phone in Gordon's office. I don't know. And then we get this weird ending to the whole scene because it ends with just Dozier narration.
With Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson kidnapped and held hostage in the defunct fragrance factory, while Louie the Lilac and lovely Lotus plot to pillage and plunder the world of perfume, give us a moment to untangle this trickily tangled skein.
It's not any threatening lines from, Louie to Bruce and Dick or them saying something heroic to him. It's just, they're pacing about. Louie's pacing about, waiting for whatever to happen, the animals to arrive and such. And Bruce and Dick working, I guess, on their bonds, and Dozier doing narration. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I like this episode, but it's got a lot of weird and unusual. I don't know if this was just something they were trying out or what. It just, some of the choices they made on this episode made no sense. We cut to Act 2. Alfred calls Barbara with a location Louie might be at thanks to the Bat computer. I mean, obviously he can't tell her. It's the Bat computer. She's about to make the change, and that's when, like you said, she's surprised by the maintenance man.
Well, Charlie, Batgirl rides again, and alone. What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm sorry, miss. I'm the maintenance man, the new one. I thought you were out, so I took my keys and I came up the back way. The people downstairs were complaining about the grinding noise up here. Did you know that this wall revolves?
I know the wall revolves. Apparently it was built to do just that for a previous tenant. But, sir, you don't have to pry it open. I usually use this door.
Where does it go?
To a secret closet behind the wall. I use it for extra storage space. Would you like to see it?
Oh, sure. Sure. I'm a sucker for secret closets.
Now, I thought one thing that was really interesting about the whole thing was that we find out Barbara owns several guns.
I think the NRA would be too happy back then.
No, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's jokingly, but she makes the threat that a maintenance man would make a good target.
Not much, is it?
Nothing for the neighbors to complain about. I don't know what they're talking about.
Neither do I.
And as you say, you never use the revolving door anyway.
No, of course not.
Well, I'm very sorry. I surprised you, lady. I really am, and I'll never do it again.
Yes, well, it's not very wise of you. I keep several guns here, and an innocent maintenance man makes a pretty good target sometimes.
Oh, don't you worry, lady. I'll never use my pass key to come in the back way again. Never. Oh, and you can make book on that. Bye now. Bye.
That was a close call, Charlie.
So, once again, Barbara Gordon begins her tantalizing transformation. And shortly emerges from her secret exit as Batgirl, even as the Batmobile arrives in Gotham City during a passing shower, without a driver, which Alfred is explaining to his abducted employer.
Now, this is one of the things I do like about this episode. Alfred has sent the Batmobile out to Bruce's location in case he needs it for whatever reason. I guess he's figuring that at some point Bruce will make, his move as Batman and such, so the Batmobile should stand by. The footage we see, though, of the Batmobile going through the streets is from the Penguin Marcia three-parter. Because even Dozier comments, it's raining. Well, yeah, it was raining when you shot that footage a year ago. Now, this is the one thing I don't get. Would all those animals gathered in one place create such a smell immediately?
That's quite an interesting fact. Yes, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. I'm like, he comes in and he says the place stinks and stuff like that. I guess maybe, I thought maybe it wouldn't be so immediate, but whatever, So he wants Bruce to remove the glands, and Bruce says no, it's an illegal thing, and he calls it criminal mutilation. Now, I gotta wonder, what is there such a thing as honest mutilation or legal mutilation? I don't know. Criminal mutilation seemed a little bit redundant. Did you also notice this whole episode, and this was something I just want to pick up on, that Adam West doesn't seem as enthusiastic in this episode? I would have thought he would have been happy to be out of the costume and play Bruce for a while. I mean, yeah, granted, he's tied up, but at least he's getting to act without the mask on. And I thought he would be happy about that. But it looks to me almost like he's phoning in this performance. I mentioned it in the last podcast with Catwoman and Joker, that he phones it in a lot. I mean, did you get that feeling?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know too much about behind the scenes or whatever, but maybe I wonder at this point, maybe they knew that the show was canceled or whatever, so they were just like, okay, I'm just gonna, finish up my last couple of scripts or whatever, and not really put an effort into it.
It's a shame if that were the case, because as much as I didn't think that the last two episodes with Catwoman and Joker were very good, I kind of like this one, and we've got a couple coming up. There's the King Tut episode. As goofy as it is, there's Joker's Flying Saucer, and I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy Shame as much as I did the second season one. That if he's not putting any effort into it, that's going to bring those down a little, in my opinion. I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. Meanwhile, we see the Batmobile, Batgirl, the police all converge on Louie's hideout. Gordon gets to call them out using his bullhorn, and Louie responds with his, I guess it's just convenient. This is moving the plot along in the economy of writing. He's got a bullhorn built into his boutonniere.
Commissioner Gordon, it's Lilac time for you, Commissioner. Do you hear me? Lilac time. So vacate this area along with your men at once. One move to interrupt what I have planned will result in the immediate demise of millionaire Bruce Wayne and his youthful ward, Dick Grayson.
Batgirl sneaks inside, but she's quickly caught by Louie. I don't know. That's a shame. I would have liked to have actually seen her do a little more before maybe being caught. But again, I guess it's, you got to move the story along and get her in some sort of peril so that Bruce can get moved away. I don't know. I know some people say I read too much into this stuff too sometimes.
Yeah, one thing I thought was interesting with the character Lotus or whatever. I was talking to older Jen at work or whatever, who's like, he's, once this working part-time, he's in his 70s, and he remembered, talking about Batman, the series in the 60s, and he was saying, I was telling him about the characters, and he goes, oh yeah, well, I wondered one thing would have happened, because I guess he was a big Bruce Lee fan, and he was saying, well, how come they never had a fight scene, like, since Batgirl knew, all type of fight moves, why she didn't fight with Lotus, like maybe a little kung fu fight or something like that.
That would have been interesting. I mentioned in the last episode, too, how Batgirl and Catwoman seem to get into it for a moment. When the big courtroom scene happens, they get into, Batman and Robin start fighting off Joker and his goons and stuff, and Batgirl goes at Catwoman, and they're holding, they're sort of locked hand in hand, sort of pushing against each other, trying to one-up each other. Then O'Hara just grabs Catwoman and drags her away, so fight over. Yeah, it would have been interesting if Batgirl had taken on Lotus. And also, from my recollections, and I'm sure this is the case, the next episode with Nora Clavicle, you've got a woman there. She's got two women moles as her sidekicks, her partners, and what have you. And Batgirl never tussles with any of them. So, I know they the whole thing about Batgirl not punching and stuff, so, but still, they could have done something with Batgirl where she was taking on some of the women that she meets in these episodes.
I think that one of the best one would have been, like, since you mentioned about Catwoman, or I think it really would have been like a really fun and a lot of action-packed thing. I would have, loved to have seen her fight the Eartha Kitt Catwoman.
Yeah, it was so brief in the last episode, it was a shame. But Batgirl is placed in a macerating, I don't know what the word, I didn't even get a chance to look it up, macerating, but there you go, that's my new SAT word for the day. A macerating vat where oil will be poured on top of her. So Bruce agrees to remove the glands if Batgirl is spared. All he needs, he says, though, are 2 glasses of warm water. Louie plans on killing her anyway, but the oil needs to be boiling hot first, so they have to wait on that. Bruce is then placed inside the room with all the animals along with Dick. And again, this is now, okay, you know what? It's Batman, so we'll accept it. He's got these 2 tablets that have, shrunken costumes complete with utility belts in them. I wonder if they've got the Bat Shield.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if they've got the Bat Shield. So, they drop the pellets into the water, they get the costumes, they change, they escape. And what's interesting is they, because they want to keep their identity, they don't come bursting out the door and attack. They instead actually leave the building and join Gordon outside.
What in the world could be happening in there?
Maybe he's killed them all, including Batman and Robin.
He didn't kill Batman and Robin. We're trying to break in a rear entrance with no luck.
But we saw enough to believe Batgirl's in great danger.
Now, if you can loan us some of your strong shoulders, we'll break in the front way.
Yes, certainly. All right, boys, give him a hand, or Chief, take over.
All right, here we go, boys, follow me.
But what's interesting is when they storm the place and the bat fight breaks out, the cops never come into the room. It's just Batman and Robin fighting, and then shortly after that, Batgirl, who's now revived, joining them. And then why didn't the police come in?
They probably were on a donut break.
Yeah. Oh, the bat fight isn't very, spectacular in any sort of way. It's all right. It's using the full Batgirl theme music for the fight itself. When all is said and done, that Batgirl actually stays around for the very end because they got to disappear and get back into their regular clothes as Bruce and Dick.
Yeah, I love the line. I don't know if you caught it, but I love the line where it says about Bruce and Dick being two average people.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, they're about as average as a $3 bill.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on the comment you made about Milton Berle, because I wanted to tell you he was never one of my favorite actors. And an interesting tidbit was that when my grandfather had one of his telly appearances, or television, as you say here in the States, on, my gran would turn the channel and she said, "Turn that rubbish off."
Tell me something, Batgirl. How did you get out of that vat?
With my Batgirl vat opener, after Louie's knockout spray wore off. We'd better get Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. They're locked in the basement.
We'll take care of that, Batgirl. You've had a tough day. You go outside and get Commissioner Gordon in here to pick up this lavender mob.
Right.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I've seen him on Hollywood Squares. I've seen him on... I saw the Saturday Night Live train wreck, and that was a train wreck because he was still trying to do jokes when the show was over. It was horrible. It was horrible. I mean, he didn't seem to get the whole idea of an ensemble cast. I mean, I know he'd done live TV for many years, but he was always the center of attention. I forget if he ever did Hollywood Palace, but yeah, he just was just too overbearing an individual, and he wasn't good at sharing the screen, which is why I find it so odd, because here he is on Batman, and, you know, in particular this episode, and he's pretty good. I liked him. You know, I wouldn't call him one of my favorite villains, but I actually like him. I mean, what did you think of him here?
I thought, yeah, it was good. The first episode that you mentioned, he was in it, and also this one or whatever, but I think I enjoyed him more on his appearance on the Batman show than anything else.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, from Joel Eisner's official Batman Bat book. I know you probably got the answer to this because I know you told me you had the book there. What tool did Batgirl use to free herself from the vat?
A Batgirl bat opener.
A Batgirl bat opener. Now, a couple of quick questions I want to ask you. One question and one comment I realized in reading through Joel's book. Now, you mentioned you have the book. Do you have the original 80s version, or do you have the more recent version?
I have the original 80s version, and one interesting thing is about the book is it's autographed by Adam West and Burt Ward, and my wife got it at a comic book shop, and they put $10, and she said, with those autographs and how much they charge at conventions, I think it should have been $100.
Yeah. They were only charging $10 for the book?
Yeah, it was about 2-3 years ago. She had it at a local comic book shop, and she asked them, what was it? Are you sure that's the price? And they didn't say anything, but like, yeah, that's $10. So I think maybe they didn't realize it was their Adam West and Burt Ward's autograph in the inside panel.
Oh my God! But that's the thing. The book itself is worth $20. If you try and get it on Amazon. I mean, forget about and she picked it up a few years ago. This was the 80s version?
Yeah, it was about 2-3 years ago, since we're living here in Ohio, that she got it at a comic book store here locally.
Your wife did excellent. I mean, that was just a great find, because the 80s version is hard to get as it is. I would say they probably, even just the book itself, if some people wanted to try and find it on eBay, probably run them $100. Then add the fact that the autographs are in there, $10. You are very lucky, my friend.
Yeah, I have it down there in comic book box or whatever that the same comic book shop has or whatever, which is I hadn't seen anywhere else around since my collecting comics. But basically, they're they're different colors. Like the one I have is the red ones and the blue ones and the yellow ones, but they're like a hardcover plastic or whatever compared to the paper ones or the cardboard ones. And I have it down there, and I have it labeled special collector's items, stuff that I don't really take out that often.
Yeah. The other thing too about the book itself is that I thought it was odd, and I didn't realize it until recently with the last couple of episodes I've recorded here. When Joel lists bat devices for each episode, he doesn't list any of the Batgirl devices. Because the Batgirl bat opener, while it's a trivia question, is not listed among the bat devices. And for that matter, in the previous episode, Batgirl uses her Batgirl universal antidote pills, which I still find it funny that Batgirl actually has that kind of chemistry knowledge that she can come up with the universal antidote. But still, he doesn't list it among the bat items, which I thought was interesting. But,
yeah, I caught that too. That's really interesting about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we didn't have a lot here. Did you have a favorite bat device?
Yeah, I believe mine was the instant unfolding bat costumes with utility belts.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But since Joel doesn't mention it in the book, I'm going to give a nod also to the Batgirl bat opener, because Batgirl should get her kudos and her attention as well for being as clever as she is. Even though we don't understand why she's so clever, it's okay. She's as clever as she is. You are Robin the Boy Wonder. You've watched this episode with Batman down in the Batcave. You turn to him, and how do you sum up this episode in a holy exclamation?
Holy botany class that Aunt Harriet missed due to having a lie down in her room due to shock.
Oh God, yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, it's a lot better watching it the second time than when I recall growing up and seeing it.
Yeah. As a kid growing up, I never liked either episode, and it was even just more so to do with I just didn't take the guy in the purple suit very seriously. It wasn't even anything to know about Milton Berle at the time. I just didn't take him seriously. But watching this time around, I kind of like it. Yes, it's got a lot of flaws. It's got, the whole dopey scene with the review of episodes and things like that. It sticks out like such a, and I'm usually good with clips at some point, flashbacks and what have you in TV shows. But this one just didn't work for me. But what did work was the fact that Berle was actually subdued and, somewhat sinister. He was a little creepy in many respects. It was nice to see Adam and Bert getting the majority of this episode out of costume, even if they were tied most of the time. And it was nice to see that Batgirl was running the show. My only actual real regret, and it has nothing to do with the story, is that Adam is still phoning it in. I think we've lost him at this point. He's gone. He's already just finished, like you say, finishing up these episodes and getting ready to move on, because they had to have known by now. I keep meaning to look it up and find out. I know a couple of people have told me, and I've forgotten, when they got the word that the series was canceled. But they had to have known by this point now, and it was just a matter of finishing out the season and such. But I would still say Holy Lilacs. I'd watch this again. I would not watch the Catwoman Joker two-parter from the previous episode. I'd actually find myself watching this one again, because they're just some nice little touches and nods. I like the beach house. I like the scene that, as sad as it is to see, I like the fact that at least we see the foyer of Wayne Manor and such. And God help me, I like Milton Berle in this. Let me just clarify that before anybody gets any ideas. So, all right, Joseph, as we come to the end of the episode, I always give my guests an opportunity here to sort of promote themselves. If people want to get in touch with you and talk Batman 66, or, you've got podcasts of your own as well, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, either with my website, which is www.helandersheart.com, or they can email me at my long-winded email address, which is joseph.captainscotland.culp@gmail.com. All right.
And you don't have any Facebook or Twitter presence in terms of your website page or your podcast, do you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page as well.
Okay. So we'll put links for all that up on the show notes when we release this episode, so people can also connect with you through our website at batcavepodcast.com. Joseph, thanks so much for doing this. I mean, this wasn't, it's funny, this isn't a heavy episode, it's not a deep episode, but still in the end, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. It's been a real pleasure and an honor being on this podcast with you. And I say ta-ra and a wonderful weekend to everybody.
Bye. So, folks, stay tuned next time. If you thought Marcia, Queen of Diamonds, was bad, wait until you get a load of Nora Clavicle. I mean, even the promo for next week gives you a hint that there is something really wrong with this one, because they talk about her and her fight for suffrage, something like, I mean, they make it basically look like women are bad, and women having any sort of desire to be equal, or in this case here with Nora Clavicle, I think she just wants to be on top, is bad. And of course she's, looking evil as she says, Commissioner Gordon won't be commissioner for very long. So joining me to work out this whole episode will be podcaster Chris Franklin. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, citizens, Joseph, take care, everybody. Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave Podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. Or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.
Well, another canny, colorful crook is in the clink.
And that tuckered-out police commissioner is going to breathe much easier on his West Cape cruise.
West Cape cruise.
I think I've earned myself a little vacation, Bruce. And the department's in good hands with Chief O'Hara at the helm.
When do you leave, Commissioner?
The end of the week. Why?
It's just that...
Well, you two look as though I were committing some sort of criminal act by taking a vacation.
Well, as I was saying, Commissioner, Gotham City is planning a civic luncheon in your honor next week.
My honor?
It was supposed to be a surprise.
But now the cat's out of the bag.
Well, there goes the West Cape cruise. I'm deeply touched. And just between the four of us, I'll certainly try to act surprised at this surprise luncheon.
Commissioner Gordon won't have to act surprised at the affair in his honor. He's going to get the surprise of his life from that dauntless champion of women's rights, Miss Nora Clavicle.
He certainly is. Especially when he discovers he's ex-police Commissioner Gordon.